Hi. So I'm just going to kind of finish up these last couple slides about the motivation unit. So we ended in class kind of talking about this attribution theory and how, how we attribute our success or our failures make a difference in regards to our motivation. So again, attributions affect expectations of our future success, failure, emotion, and motivation levels. So again, if we can really focus on those internal factors, the things that we can control, that will lead us to be more motivated in the future. Okay. So again, if we attribute our successes to things out of our control, we're less motivated in comparison to people that can attribute their successes to things that are within their control. Okay. The next theory I want to mention, let me get my little pointer out here, is the achievement goal theory. And so when we think about achievement goal theory, we have to think about two factors. So achievement goals, perceived ability levels, and that will determine our behavior as a result. Okay. So three things to think about. To understand achievement, we must understand what success and failure means to that individual. Okay. So we can have outcome-oriented goals or we can have task-oriented goals. We can certainly have both, and a lot of people probably do have both of these, but outcome-oriented goals are comparative. Okay. So again, outcome-oriented goals are related to winning, most likely, or beating someone else. So one of the issues with having outcome-oriented goals is we only win 50% of the time from a statistical standpoint, right? So we're only successful 50% of the time, and so therefore it leads us to A, not feel successful, and B, often we can make excuses because of kind of our lower success level if we're only successful 50% of the time. Okay. Task-oriented goals, you're more focused on yourself. Okay, so you're more focused on improving your relative performance, regardless or not, of if you win. Okay, so task-oriented goals has more to do with your individual performance as opposed to your comparative performance, which is this outcome-oriented aspect. Okay. Let's see, most people have both of these. So again, not only, yes, I want to win the game or I want to win X amount of races or, I want to be successful from a comparative standpoint, but I also want to improve in my skill as well. So most people have both, but we tend to value one over the other. Okay. Orientation leads to stronger work ethic. So again, if I can kind of focus on what I need to do and what skills I need to master in order to improve my performance, we tend to then also improve from an outcome oriented standpoint as well. Okay. So again, task oriented goals will lead us to have a stronger work ethic. You're more motivated because you can control your own performance as opposed to, this outcome oriented goal. Half of it has to do with how good the other team is, right? And we can't control that. So that's going to lead to a decrease in motivation in comparison to if I can just focus on what I need to do to reach my potential, then the rest will kind of fall into place. Okay. We want to face moderately difficult challenges and not fear failure. And again, that will lead us to the highest level of achievement motivation. So again, you think about these achievement goals, we should also think about our perceived ability levels. So again, if I feel like I have a high ability or a high competence level, that will lead me to be more motivated. If I have this low perceived ability level or low competence, I'm not super confident in my ability to complete this task, then my motivation will be lower. Okay. As a result of my perceived ability and my goals, this will lead us to understand achievement behavior. So again, we have to think about our performance. And again, that's related to both skill and effort. Effort is certainly an important factor. Persistence. So again, how often am I going to continue to work towards this goal, even if I've failed in the past? Task choice. And then again, thinking about realistic or unrealistic tasks or opponents as a result of kind of these other variables. Okay. competence motivation theory. So with this particular theory, again, athletes' perceptions of control. So feeling control over whether they can or cannot learn / perform a particular skill, work along with self-worth and competence evaluations to influence their motivation. So again, if I believe that I have control over my ability to learn this task or achieve this particular skill, then I have a higher self-worth. I also have higher confidence. I'm going to have more satisfaction in being able to achieve that goal. So again, we want to think about those things. Certainly, you know, this influences our emotional states. So are we enjoying this, or, you know, we're not able to achieve this and we get frustrated and we feel ashamed because we can't achieve this. So enjoyment and shame are certainly important. Pride would be the opposite of that. So super proud that I'm able to make some progress. And again, it's so easy for us to fall into this trap of seeing what other people are doing. So, you know, maybe you're super proud that you were able to improve your free throw shooting average from 70% to 80%, but you know one of your teammates is shooting at 90% or something along those lines. So again, it's important for us to kind of like stay in our own lanes and focus on what we're doing and focus on our ability to complete a task without comparing ourselves to others. Okay, anxiety and stress, that's our kind of our next unit after personality. So again, we'll talk about, you know, how does that play into our motivation and, you know, our enjoyment level as well. So again, those are certainly important. One's competence may differ over many domains. So again, you know, we talked about a little bit in class how we might want to consider this view of, I want to be a champion in all aspects of my life, right? But, you know, we're going to be good at some things and not good at others, or we're not going to have equivalent motivations necessarily across all these domains. So maybe I'm an excellent basketball player, for example, or soccer player, for example, but I really struggle in school. Okay. So again, my competence to achieve success is going to be different across those domains. I've seen my hard work pay off on the soccer field, but I haven't necessarily seen my hard work pay off academically. Okay. So again, you know, my competence might be different across those domains. Social is another whole nother ball game that we'll talk about a little bit later in this class when we think about team dynamics and those types of issues. But again, keep in mind that our confidence and our you know, our motivation and across these multiple areas of our lives can differ. We do find that there's a strong link between competence and motivation. And my competence is basically my ability to, or my belief in my ability to be able to do something. Okay. So again, here's an example. If a young soccer player has high self-esteem, feels competent, and perceives she has control over her learning environment and performance, her enjoyment level will increase. Okay, we enjoy things where we feel like we have control and we can see ourselves making progress, and therefore this will result in an increase in motivation. So again, coaching behaviors can strongly influence our competence level of our athletes. Okay, so again, we need to make sure that when we're talking to our athletes, we need to think about tactics to improve motivation for our athletes, for our students, if we're athletic trainers or something along those lines, and we're working with them in a rehab setting. Again, focus on praise being related to their effort levels. Wow, you did a great job out there. I could tell that you put in a good effort. Not, wow, you won that game because you're talented. Okay, again, that doesn't empower the athlete, right? That just tells them that they received that not because of something that they did, but because of who they are, if that makes sense. So again, we want to focus on both when they succeed and when they fail on things that we can control and on things that we can you know, manipulate, such as effort levels. Okay. So again, you know, focusing on those particular factors allows us to really empower the athlete. So again, when we think about how do we develop these things, how do we develop achievement, motivation, and competitiveness in individuals? So again, this looks a little bit into the developmental factors associated with these conditions. So the autonomous stage, this will occur before the age of 4. And these individuals are focusing on mastering their environment and self-testing. So again, they're trying to learn how to do a task. They're not concerned with what other people are doing. They're just trying to achieve that task themselves, okay? So they're rarely able to compare themselves to others. So they're more focused on, can they do it or not, okay? And they're very proud of themselves when they are able to achieve these particular tasks. And they're less focused on if other kids can also achieve these tasks or not. Okay. Then we move into the social comparison stage. And again, these are rough estimates of ages in which we kind of reach these levels. But generally it begins around the age of 5. And now the child is focused on directly comparing his performance to others. So again, you know, parents, teachers, and coaches play an important role during development as we think about defining tasks, games as competitive or cooperative. Because again, at this particular age, we want to focus on both sides of things. So again, teaching kids the value of being a good sport. So, you know, if you lose, that's okay, and, you know, how to kind of cope with those losses. And then also, you know, how to work together as a team. Again, those are important life skills that will be valuable regardless of whether or not this child continues to do sport or not. And then lastly, we'll move into what's known as the integrative stage. And in this stage, the person masters when it's appropriate to be competitive and to compare themselves to others, and also when it's important to use self-reference standards. So again, to kind of focus on being able to improve themselves as it relates to that task, as opposed to comparing themselves to others. So lastly, we want to think about how can we use motivation in a professional practice, whether you're a coach or a teacher or a rehab person, whatever it is that you want to do in your life. How can we use this information to help us motivate the individuals that we might be working with? So number one, we want to recognize interaction factors in achievement motivation. So again, we need to understand the interaction between the participant goal orientations. So again, you know, is their goal to win? Is their goal to be better at this task, or to run XYZ time, or, you know, make this many free throws, for example, something along those lines. So we want to understand the interaction between their goal orientations, achievement motivation, and situations they tend to approach or avoid. Okay. Again, also, how do they attribute their successes and their failures? Again, we want to work towards focusing on, you know, attribution to things under their control. Now, certainly there are scenarios where we need to consider some of those outside factors, such as a bad call from a ref, or, you know, environmental factors, things like that. When we think about task-oriented goals, it was a cold, windy, rainy day, and so I wasn't able to hit my time, but my effort level was good, or something along those lines, right? So again, we've got to think about those attributions and how we can help to shape our mindset of our athletes. Okay. Again, emphasis should be on task-oriented goals. So again, when we ask our athletes goals, which we should be working with our athletes, thinking about their goals, it's important for us to focus on these task-oriented things because those are under our control. Okay. Monitor and alter attributional feedback. So again, be careful what you can attribute your athlete's success or failures when you're providing feedback as a coach. So again, focus on effort types of things. That doesn't have to be in a mean way. You know, if you fail, is it okay to tell an athlete, you know, we're going to work harder and we're going to be able to improve on XYZ factors, and that's going to help us to win next time? Is that a bad thing to say? I don't think so. And again, that's going to empower the athlete and help them to own their failures as well. Instead of just, you know, saying like, well, that was bullshit, the ref made a bad call, or something along those lines. Again, think about what you're saying when you know, say those types of things to your athlete, or, you know, if you become a parent, how you know, talk to your children. And again, think about their mindset when we think about how we attribute our successes, but more importantly, our failures as well, right? We want to assess and correct inappropriate attributions. Again, so teach to replace lack of ability attributes with lack of effort attributes. And again, this will help to empower our athletes. Determine when competitive goals are appropriate. So again, we want to help focus our athletes to appropriate levels of challenge when we think about their goals. Okay. And then lastly, enhance feelings of competence and control. So again, we want to focus on appropriate feedback so that we can help those athletes focus on what they can do instead of being concerned with, these external factors that are out of their control. Okay, that is it for our motivation unit.